All right, so today we're going to look at rational equation word problems again this is day 2. So I would do number 1 on your own and then pause the video to check your work when you're finished. George can paint a fence in 5 hours. Working with Jen, the two of them painted a fence in 2 hours. How long would it have taken Jen to paint the fence alone? So we're going to let x equal the time in hours. And so George plus Jen equals the total. So in this case, George can paint one fence in 5 hours, and working with Jen, the two of them painted a fence in 2 hours. So one fence in 2 hours. So we're trying to figure out how long it takes Jen to paint the fence alone. So we have 1/5 plus 1 over x equals 2. So again, you can get one fraction equals one fraction and cross multiply, or you can find the LCD of all the denominators to get rid of them. So we have 2 times 5 times x, which is 10x. So that means we're going to multiply all the numerators by 10x. So when we do, we get 10x over 5 plus 10x over x equals 10x over 2. And when we solve, we get 2x plus 10 is equal to 5x. Subtract the 2x. And so divide by 3. So x equals 10/3, which is about 3.3. So Jen can paint a fence, or one fence, in 10/3 an hour. 10/3 hours, so 3.3. Looking at question number 2, same thing. Why don't you guys go ahead and pause the video and see if you can do this on your own. When you're done, unpause it and check your work. So Fran can clean the garage in 3 hours, but it takes Angie 4 hours to do the same job. How long would it take them to clean the garage if they work together? So let x equal the time in hours. So we have Fran plus Angie equals the total. So Fran can clean one garage in 3 hours, but it takes Angie 4 hours to do the same job, so 1/4. And then how long would it take them to clean the garage if they work together? So one garage equals X amount of time. So for this, again, you can get one fraction equals one fraction, cross multiply, or find the LCD of all the denominators. So the LCD of all denominators would be 3 times 4 times x, which is 12x. We're going to multiply all the numerators by 12x. So we get 12x over 3 plus 12x over 4 equals 12x over x. And then when you simplify, we get 4x plus 3x equals 12. And so 7x equals 12, and x equals 12 over 7, which is about 1.7 hours. So working together, Fran and Angie can clean a garage in 12 over 7 hours. All right, so now let's do something a little bit different. So looking at this problem, it says Garth can row 5 miles per hour in still water. It takes him as long to row 4 miles upstream as 16 miles downstream. How fast is the current? So we're going to let x equal the rate of the current. And of course, we are talking about the rate being miles per hour. So remember, distance equals rate times time. So the distance upstream, so it tells us how long it takes him as long to row 4 miles upstream as 16 miles downstream. And so it says Garth can row 5 miles per hour in still water. So if we're going upstream, that means the rate is going to be 5 minus x, because we're trying to find the rate of the current. And downstream, our rate would be 5 plus x, because if you think you're going downstream, you're going to be moving at a faster rate, right? So that's why we're adding the x here. When you're going upstream, you're going against the current, so 5 minus x. So for this, we are trying to figure out, we know again that distance equals rate times time. So the time is going to be equal to the distance over the rate, because we don't know what that is. So we're just going to take our answers here and divide them. So the distance is 4 over 5 minus x for upstream, and 16 over 5 plus x for downstream. And it says we want to figure out how fast is the current. So, and it tells us again that it takes him as long to row 4 miles upstream as 16 miles downstream. So we know that means that the time is the same for the both of them. So we just have to set these equal. So 4 over 5 minus x equals 16 over 5 plus x. And so then the next step would be to cross multiply to solve. So 4 times 5 plus x, or you could write x plus 5, equals 16 times 5 minus x. And then we're going to distribute. So 20 plus 4x equals 80 minus 16x. Subtract, or actually let's add the 16x. So that gives us 20 plus 20x equals 80. So then subtract the 20. So 20x equals 60, divide by 20, and x is equal to 3. So that means the rate of the current is 3 miles per hour. All right, so the last one. The concentration C in mg over dl means milligrams over deciliters. So if a concentration of an antibiotic in a patient's bloodstream is given by this equation, where T is the time in hours after taking the antibiotic. Question A says, what is the concentration 4 hours after taking the antibiotic? So that means we're doing T is equal to 4 hours. So we're just plugging that in for T into our equation and solving. So 50 times 4 over 4 squared plus 25, which gives us 200 over 16 plus 25, which is 200 over 41. So that would be about 4.88 milligrams per deciliter. And then for question B, in order for the antibiotic to be effective, 4 or more milligram deciliters must be present in the bloodstream. When do you have to take the antibiotic again? Solve using algebra. And you can use graphing to solve, but we're going to solve using algebra. So for this one, that means now we're plugging 4 into y and solving for the time. So we get 4 equals 50t over t squared plus 25. So we have 1 fraction equals 1 fraction, because that's really over 1. So we can cross multiply to solve. So 4 times t squared plus 25 equals 1 times 50t, so just 50t. We're going to distribute 4t squared plus 100 equals 50t. I notice I have a quadratic term, a linear term, and a constant term, so I'm going to set this equal to 0 by subtracting the 5t to the other side. So 4t squared minus 5t equal, or plus 100 equals 0. And so we can either solve this by factoring or using the quadratic formula. Of course, as you guys know, I like to factor if I can because it's usually faster. So I have a GCF of 2, so I'm going to take that out. And then remember, for this, you can use factor by grouping, or if we did the slide and divide method, so 2 times 50 is 100. So I want factors of that add up to -5, and then we would divide. So when you do all of your factoring, which you guys can pause the video and do that on your own, you should get 2t minus 5 times t minus 10 equals 0. And then, of course, we're trying to solve for the time. So when we solve, you get 2 times 2t minus 5 equals 0. And you don't really need that 2 because when you divide it out, 0 divided by 2 is just 0. And t minus 10 equals 0. So when we solve, we get t equals 5 halves and t equals 10.